April 18, 1943, 0935 hours, western coast of Bougainville Island. Lieutenant Kenji Yanagiya, 204th Kokutai, flying escort in Mitsubishi A6M3 Zero Model 22. 18 P-38G Lightning twin-engine fighters from the 339th Fighter Squadron approach at wave-top altitude after roughly 435 miles of precision navigation. The goal is unprecedented. Intercept Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto using long-range survivability and concentrated nose-mounted firepower to eliminate the naval commander-in-chief through American aviation reach and planning. Yanagiya adjusted his oxygen mask and scanned the brilliant blue sky above Empress Augusta Bay. His Zero and its Sakae 21 engine holding formation with the 5 other fighters escorting the Admiral. The morning sun illuminated 2 Mitsubishi G4M1 Betty bombers flying in loose echelon, the lead aircraft carrying the architect of Pearl Harbor on an inspection tour of forward airfields. Intelligence reports indicated American fighter activity near Guadalcanal, but Rabaul still appeared to lie beyond the reliable range of enemy fighters. The escort mission should proceed without interference from American forces. Captain Thomas Lanford Jr. pushed the yoke of his P-38 forward, descending from about 1,000 feet to 50 feet above the Coral Sea. Twin Allison engines drove counter-rotating propellers that largely canceled torque and steadied the aircraft for accurate fire. The 339th Fighter Squadron had departed Henderson Field shortly after 0700 hours, following Major John Mitchell and a meticulously calculated plan across open ocean to arrive on time along the route of the most important Japanese naval commander. The intercept rested on precise navigation and on intelligence that revealed the itinerary and schedule. Inside the lead G4M bomber, Admiral Yamamoto reviewed inspection reports from his aide while studying charts of the Solomons. The 17th Air Fleet had reported tactical success during Operation Igo, claiming significant damage to American positions across the island chain. Japanese naval aviation still fought with skill despite resource limitations, but the strategic situation required personal leadership at forward bases to sustain morale and combat effectiveness. The inspection tour would demonstrate command commitment to frontline personnel who faced American industrial pressure. Lieutenant Rex Barber checked his airspeed while maintaining position with Lanfear, his P-38G carrying 165-gallon drop tanks that extended operational radius to deep strike distances. Twin engines provided redundancy that single-engine fighters could not match over the Pacific, where a single failure often meant loss. For 50-caliber machine guns and a 20mm cannon mounted in the nose delivered concentrated fire along the center line, avoiding convergence issues common to wing-mounted armament. Yanagiya observed suspicious specks on the horizon while maintaining radio silence to protect the Admiral. Japanese fighter doctrine emphasized aggressive engagement, but escort duty demanded discipline until threats appeared. The A6M3 Zero offered excellent maneuverability and climb against many American types, yet reports described new twin-engine fighters with strong speed and altitude performance. Encounters remained limited due to the reach of American land-based aviation until now. Major Mitchell calculated wind and compass drift while leading the killer flight toward the point of interception, his navigation ensuring arrival within minutes of the scheduled approach to Kahili Airfield. The P-38 and its turbo-supercharged engines held strong performance at altitude, enabling tactics built on energy rather than turning contests. American practice emphasized coordinated attacks and disciplined energy management, using speed and concentrated fire to break enemy formations rather than enter low-speed turning fights. Flight Petty Officer Shoichi Sugita shifted position for defensive coverage while monitoring fuel during the extended escort. Japanese aircraft design prioritized range and agility over protection and structural weight, achieving performance through light construction and aerodynamic efficiency. The A6M series excelled in the turn, but recent reports noted enemy pilots diving in fast attacks and avoiding horizontal maneuvering where the Zero was strongest. A Lightning pilot armed weapons while nearing Bougainville, the twin-boom configuration providing pilot visibility and resilient systems. Each engine had independent cooling and fuel feed, allowing continued flight even if one failed. The combination of forgiving handling and heavy armament made the aircraft a stable gun platform, while its range and speed compared well with Japanese fighters in the theater. Admiral Yamamoto checked his pocket watch as the bombers began their descent toward Kahili, the punctual arrival signaling operational precision despite growing American pressure in the Solomons. Naval aviation had achieved success through aggressive tactics and skilled crews, but limits in production hindered replacement of aircraft and experienced pilots. The tour would assess forward airfields and provide guidance for continued resistance. First Lieutenant Douglas Canning spotted the Japanese formation through his armored windscreen and transmitted a contact report at 11 o'clock high to alert Mitchell. 18 Lightnings had held radio silence during the 2.5-hour flight, flying precise headings and timings to achieve the intercept at maximum range from Guadalcanal. Twin engines and external tanks gave the fuel margin needed while carrying full armament and equipment for combat. Yanagiya felt his stomach tighten as twin boom silhouettes climbed rapidly from sea level toward the formation. American fighters appeared larger and more angular than previous adversaries, suggesting a new type with unknown performance margins. The aggressive climb spoke to confidence in speed and firepower, and the coordinated approach showed tactical sophistication. Barber jettisoned his external tanks and advanced to combat power, the two Allison engines delivering strong thrust for the fight. Compressibility in steep dives had been addressed by improved training and procedures, and pilots now managed recovery without overstressing the airframe. Concentrated nose armament delivered heavy fire against lightly built aircraft that favored agility over protection. The lead G4M bomber initiated evasive moves as Zero fighters maneuvered to intercept, but the bomber had limited defensive capability against high-performance fighters. Japanese bomber design emphasized range over armor and self-sealing tanks to save weight. The Betty was highly vulnerable if fighter cover failed. A Lightning raked a Zero with machine gun and cannon fire, the stable platform and heavy armament shattering the lightweight structure. The enemy fighter burst into flames after multiple hits from 50 caliber and 20 mm rounds, demonstrating the effect of concentrated fire against lightly protected targets. Counter-rotating props and aircraft mass aided gunnery stability. Sugita attempted defensive maneuvers against the attacking Lightnings but found the Zero outpaced in dives and extension. The P-38 held energy advantages that allowed repeated slashing passes while denying effective firing solutions to the escort. Traditional turning tactics struggled against coordinated energy attacks. The American fighters closed on the bombers at high speed. Fire tore into the lead Betty and the aircraft plunged into the jungle, killing all aboard, including Admiral Yamamoto. Credit for the fatal attack has long been debated, but the result was immediate and final. The second bomber, under desperate escort, took hits and ditched in Empress Augusta Bay. Staff Officer Matomo Ogaki survived and was recovered. Only one P-38 failed to return from the mission, a stark contrast to the usual risks of single-engine aircraft operating at the edge of range over open water. The intercept delivered a psychological shock that reverberated through Japanese naval aviation. American fighters had demonstrated the ability to execute a precision strike far from base, enabled by long-range navigation, code-derived intelligence, and fighters with the reach to be there. Yanagiya tried to pursue the withdrawing formation but could not hold contact with the faster Lightnings. Twin engines delivered both speed margin and operational redundancy that single-engine fighters could not achieve in such conditions. Greater fuel capacity allowed extended operations far from base, and American engineering was eroding the edge that Japanese pilot training once held. Mitchell led his formation back toward Guadalcanal after completing one of the longest planned fighter interceptions of the Pacific War. Precise navigation and tactical coordination underpinned the success. The P-38 and its twin-engine range proved essential for the mission, delivering the reach and reliability that a single-engine fighter could not provide while concentrating enough fire to break through. The destruction of Admiral Yamamoto represented a strategic signal in Pacific air warfare. American forces could reach high-value targets at ranges that challenged Japanese assumptions about safety behind distance. The twin-engine design delivered advantages that single-engine opponents struggled to counter, while industrial output ensured continued improvement and availability. Captain Ogaki, pulled from the water of Empress Augusta Bay, understood that Japanese naval aviation faced a difficult technical slope. The American fighters combined speed, range, and firepower in a way that existing Japanese types could not match, and American industry could replace losses while fielding improved variants. The loss of Yamamoto deepened the strain on Japanese air leadership. Lightning pilots from the 339th Fighter Squadron had shown how twin-engine range and reliability could achieve strategic objectives without numerical superiority. The P-38's reach enabled operations across the Solomons and beyond, and its survivability mattered in the vast distances of the Pacific. American aviation engineering was steadily producing aircraft that could dictate engagement terms against Japanese fighters. The twin engines that powered the Lightning reflected industrial capacity that Japan struggled to match. Turbo supercharging sustained performance at altitude, offering tactical options above the regimes where many Japanese fighters excelled. Twin engines also reduced single points of failure during long over-water legs. Lockheed's engineering team produced one of the most successful twin-engine fighter designs of World War II, combining speed, range, firepower, and survivability for the Pacific environment. Centerline armament delivered heavy fire at useful ranges, and operational redundancy made oceanic flight more survivable. American tactics increasingly exploited these strengths through coordinated energy fighting and disciplined employment. Japanese fighter pilots throughout the theater encountered P-38 Lightnings with growing frequency, the twin-boom silhouette becoming a familiar sign of American presence. The aircraft earned nicknames including Fork-tailed Devil from German pilots and One Pilot Two planes from Japanese aviators who took note of its engines. The P-38 produced top-scoring American aces in the Pacific, including Richard Bong, Thomas Maguire, and Charles McDonald. Concentrated nose armament proved devastating against light Japanese construction that favored agility over protection. For 50 caliber guns and a 20mm cannon, firing along the centerline eliminated convergence problems and allowed very short firing times to achieve results. This accurate platform punished aircraft that lacked armor and self-sealing tanks. The strategic implications of long-range fighters extended beyond individual encounters. High-value Japanese movements lost the protective effect of distance, and American long-range fighters could escort or strike deep when needed. Reconnaissance variants designated F-4 and F-5 provided a large share of American aerial photography over Pacific targets, their range and reliability enabling systematic intelligence collection. Counter-rotating propellers reduced torque effects and steadied the P-38 in gunnery. Combined with centerline armament, this made the Lightning a highly accurate platform by the standards of the time. Pilots could deliver telling bursts with less time on target than wing-gun aircraft often required. Japanese industry did field twin-engine fighters such as the Ki-45 and later types, but in smaller numbers and often for roles that differed from the P-38. Production limits, engine power constraints, and changing priorities limited their impact compared to American output. The balance of range, speed, and firepower that the Lightning offered remained difficult to match. Turbo-supercharged power gave the P-38 an altitude edge over Japanese fighters optimized for lower altitudes, allowing American pilots to choose when to engage. Tactics emphasized teamwork, coordinated slashing attacks, and energy retention rather than turning fights where the Zero was strongest. This doctrinal shift aligned with broader fighter practice that by late 1941 had moved toward flexible formations and cooperative attack methods. The psychological effect of Lightning operations spread across Japanese naval aviation and beyond. Units increasingly recognized that American technology and production were narrowing traditional advantages. Many Japanese pilots avoided unnecessary engagement with Lightning formations when objectives did not demand it. Lightning production exceeded 10,000 aircraft, a reflection of American industrial scale. Manufacturing efficiency supported continuous improvement, with later models gaining features for better performance and handling. This steady advancement compounded the operational effect of range and reliability. The operational redundancy that defined the Lightning mattered in the Pacific. An engine failure became a serious emergency rather than an automatic loss, which encouraged deep missions that single engine types often could not risk. Over time, this helped apply pressure across a wide area that Japanese forces struggled to answer. The April 18th interception of Admiral Yamamoto showcased the reach of American long-range fighters and the fusion of intelligence, navigation, and tactics. The operation achieved strategic impact through planning and execution rather than sheer numbers, removing a key leader at a critical moment. It also signaled that distance alone would not shield high-value targets from determined attacks. Japanese aviation could not quickly adapt to the combined challenges of range, firepower, and industrial output that American forces brought to bear. The P-38 Lightning illustrated this gap in stark terms, and it remained an important instrument of American air power in the Pacific to the end of the war. Lieutenant Kenji Yanagiya, surviving the encounter over Bougainville, reported that American aviation had achieved a technological and operational breakthrough his unit could not counter with existing aircraft or tactics. Twin-engine fighters held performance combinations that erased traditional advantages while extending American reach. Superior engineering and disciplined doctrine were reshaping the air war. The destruction of Admiral Yamamoto through a long-range fighter interception demonstrated the ability to strike high-value targets across the Pacific. Lightnings and their crews turned the breadth of the ocean from a shield into an operating area. Twin-engine technology provided decisive reach and resilience that Japanese aviation could not match with the tools at hand. Major John Mitchell's navigation and planning exemplified American operational sophistication that maximized P-38 advantages. The aircraft provided the platform for tactical innovation, while training and doctrine extracted the best from its capabilities. Japanese aviation now faced challenges that demanded fundamental changes rather than incremental adjustments. The shock of encountering twin-engine fighters that could outrun and outshoot at range marked a turning point in Pacific air operations. American industry and engineering had achieved a margin that Japan could not erase quickly. The P-38 became a symbol of American reach and staying power in the skies over the Pacific. April 18, 1943, marked the day when Japanese naval aviation confronted the reality that American long-range fighter technology had altered the balance. The Lightning demonstrated capabilities that existing Japanese aircraft and tactics could not reliably counter, helping set the conditions for growing American air superiority through the remainder of the campaign. The twin engines, centerline armament, exceptional range, and operational redundancy of the Lightning represented an achievement that Japanese industry could not readily duplicate. This convergence of performance and reliability helped define the outcome of many long-range operations in the Pacific. Yanagiya understood that the encounter over Bougainville showed how technology, training, and planning could decide an air battle in minutes. The P-38 had become a principal instrument of American air supremacy that Japanese aviation struggled to counter with existing methods. The loss of Admiral Yamamoto underscored that truth. The death of Isoroku Yamamoto through a precision interception executed by long-range fighters showed the strategic weight of technological and operational advantage. Lightning pilots and planners removed Japan's foremost naval air strategist in a single mission. The twin-engine fighter had proven its worth as a weapon of reach and decision in the vast Pacific theater.